Dr. Elizabeth Hoefer wants you to get your head on straight. In a world gone sideways, having balance and integrity in all areas of life leads to having confidence that breeds clarity. Clarity is essential to living an authentic life, and all the information shared on the Get Your Head On Straight podcast is designed to inspire you to live your life fulfilled. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Get Your Head On Straight with Dr. Elizabeth Hoefer. Today my guest is Tom Hazzard. He is an inventor with more than 37 patents and an unprecedented 86% rate for consumer product designs. He is a huge fan of Blair Cervical Chiropractic, both personally and for his family, and he has an outstanding story to tell you today about how he has gotten well from Blair Cervical Chiropractic. Welcome to the show, Tom. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
I am so excited that you're on the podcast today. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this interview with you is because last week I got to take care of you in the office, and you had just come home from an amazing trip to the East Coast with your family, and you came back and you were kind of a wreck. And you came into the office, I think 2 days ahead of schedule. Basically, you landed, you came from the airport, you got to my office, and you were a mess. So can you actually tell me what you were thinking when you got off the airplane and why you needed to get to my office that day?
It always, for some reason, seems to surprise me, although it probably shouldn't, that when I'm having tremendous lower back pain, and that was my situation. Yes, I traveled to New York for Thanksgiving. I grew up outside of New York City and took my family, and we went into the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. It was a classic Thanksgiving trip to visit family. And while there on the last 2 days, I think, I started having this tremendous lower back pain, and I could not pick anything up. I couldn't pick up my young child. And at first I thought, oh, what did I do? How did I hurt myself? And I'm popping Aleve like crazy to deal with the pain and get through. And finally, by the time I'm flying home on the plane and it hasn't gotten any better in a couple of days, I'm thinking, maybe my neck's out. And I probably should have thought of that first. Not that I could have done anything about it where I was in New York, but I just realized, all right, I might be out of alignment. And I planned when I landed, I was going to text you. And maybe I shouldn't say that because not everybody can text their chiropractor, but I'm lucky enough to have your text number. And I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to come in Thursday. It's Tuesday. I just landed at LAX. Anyway, you could squeeze me in this afternoon. And I figured I was probably out.
Right. So your experience is that you have tremendous low back pain, and it finally occurred to you, maybe my neck is out. So I want to kind of go back and explain that a little bit, how your neck can affect your low back. And I know that it baffles you. And every time we adjust you, which thankfully isn't very often, your back feels better almost immediately. So I want to explain why when you get your neck adjusted, it actually helps your low back pain, because when your neck is in alignment, your head sits over your spine the way that it's supposed to. And because of that, you're translating gravity effectively, which is a force that we can't get away from. So when you're translating gravity effectively, your low back pain gets better because your body is moving through space better. And that is why when I adjust your neck, Tom, your low back feels better. So that's pretty incredible.
It's amazing to me. And I was not the biggest believer of the benefits of Blair Chiropractic when I first learned about it, but I personally have experienced it so much. Usually what I've mostly experienced is lower back pain on like the left side of my spine, sort of in my lower kidney area or something. And when usually I've known for the last 2 years, probably when I have pain there, I know I'm out of alignment, and it's usually my C2 vertebrae. At least that's what you've told me. It's my C2 vertebrae. How do I know what it is, right? But the C2 vertebrae is out. And this time the back pain was different. That's why I didn't immediately realize my neck was probably out of alignment. It was in the center of my lower back. And I wondered if I had injured myself, hurt myself somehow, or strained it. But then, of course, when we came in, I learned it was C1 and C2 were out, which is unusual for me. And that obviously translated to a different symptom, I think.
Yeah, that's really awesome that you recognize that, because yes, generally speaking, for you, your C2 means your left lower back hurts. But for whatever reason, the atlas, which is C1, the first bone right underneath your skull, and the second bone, C2, also known as the axis, they were both out of alignment. So that translated into something a little bit different, which was a more intense, more central spine pain. And I suppose that's probably why you didn't recognize that your neck was out of alignment, because it was something different and new. And actually, the 1-2 combo, that was the first time we've ever had to do that. So now we know when that happens, your symptoms correlate to those two segments or vertebra being out of alignment, which it's really cool because when you've been under care for a while, you start to recognize this symptom goes with this vertebra. These symptoms go when these things go out of alignment, and it's really interesting. I want to go back and talk to you about how you had just talked about the fact that you didn't necessarily have a huge belief in Blair upper cervical chiropractic. What was it that finally made you, I guess, want to try it? Because your wife had been under care for several years. And I remember seeing you come to the office and bringing her in. And then I finally got you convinced, like, let's try this out. Let's do this. What was it that finally made you get on under care?
Well, you're right. I mean, I had observed for a number of years my wife getting Blair upper cervical chiropractic care, starting in Northern California when we lived in the East San Francisco Bay Area. And she started going after a car accident, and she was really hurt. And I'm not going to really speak for her, but she definitely had an injury and needed help. And Blair chiropractic care dramatically changed her life, and it made her so much better. So I knew it was working for her. I didn't understand it. And I had seen, well, there were many different kinds of symptoms, in particular, really bad headaches that she used to suffer from a whole lot more, and that her chiropractic care from a Blair doctor dramatically improved those headaches, among other things, helped her recover from this auto accident that she had where her head was sort of turned to the side as she was hit from behind, and that kind of messed up her neck. But I'd never tried it myself. And until you experience it for yourself, it's really hard to understand. But I then got in a car accident in March of 2009. I was rear-ended, the 5 freeway in Greater LA. And my daughter was with me. And of course, she also had been a patient already with my wife. And I don't even remember what my symptoms were, but I knew after that car accident, a few days after that, I was a mess. I was hurting, had issues with my leg and my back and other things. And I think just my wife really pushed me. You got to at least give this a try. I think it also helped me that it was covered by my auto insurance and that I got hit by somebody else. And whether it was my fault or not, the auto insurance was going to cover it. So I was like, all right, if there was ever an opportunity to give it a shot, this is it. Because financially it was easy. And I have to be honest about that. I mean, today as a regular patient, I would pay anything to get better. And I know it works. So now it's different. But at the time, I mean, I always thought, well, it's really expensive. Is this really going to do anything for me and whatever? But auto insurance made it easy. So I think that's what brought me in the first time, and got the x-ray workup and the whole thing, and found, yeah, the accident did some damage, and the Blair chiropractic treatment just improved my pain symptoms tremendously. And this is the thing that really is still a mystery to me. I mean, I'm not a doctor, right? I'm a patient. It's amazing to me how many different kinds of symptoms can occur if your neck is out of alignment, and how relatively easy it is, from my perspective, for that to be fixed. And I meet people who are suffering and I say, hey, have you given this a try? And most people, of course, say no, because there aren't a whole lot of you out there, right? But everybody who I've recommended to give it a try, it's just dramatically changed their lives, to the point where I'm like, well, why the heck aren't there more of you out there? Because we need you.
Right. Your story is so incredible. And it's really neat that you as a patient see that your low back pain, your wife's headaches, and people that have discipline issues, or I guess I should say behavioral issues, things like that. All of these different things can get better by getting your head on straight and by applying the specific Blair upper cervical chiropractic model. And I know that you've personally shared with me that you've referred people up in Seattle, out in Pennsylvania, in New York. And you're right, there's about 100 of us in the entire world. And my calling in my life is to not only provide phenomenal Blair upper cervical chiropractic care, but to educate people and I guess students of chiropractic on how to learn this technique, become a master of it, and have this as one of the tools in their tool belt. So I get the opportunity to go up to the college and mentor students and One of the interviews that I did was with my intern, Kevin Pekka, who's going to be graduating in a couple of weeks and going to Montclair, New Jersey and opening up his practice, which is very exciting. Because you have that East Coast connection and you're often on the East Coast, you're going to have somebody in your area that can take care of you when you're not here. And we've talked, and I know that you can validate this, you literally have to consider where you and your family are going to live based on, is there a Blair chiropractor available for you to get care?
Yeah, no, it's a serious consideration. I mean, I love Southern California. I'm originally from the Northeast, but we've lived out here for like at least 12 years or something now. And, my wife and I have had fleeting thoughts of, well, should we move back to the Northeast, to Rhode Island? Because our business in reality would let us work from anywhere. So, we've considered it. But I honestly would be really, I don't know if afraid is the right word, or be very concerned about moving somewhere where there is not a Blair Chiropractic practice within 50 miles or something. And oftentimes there's not one within 200 or 300 miles. I mean, you said there's 100 of you, but it's not like you're evenly distributed across the 50 states.
That's an actual fact. I think that 25 or 30 of us live in California because it's a great place to live. There's one person who practices Blair upper cervical in Australia. There is an amazing doctor down in Brazil, and then a sprinkling of people throughout the rest of the United States. But there are entire regions of the country that don't have Blair upper cervical chiropractic. And obviously, one of my missions in life is to change that.
Well, I hope you do change it. And, it's hard. As we're talking and I'm answering your questions, I'm realizing, gosh, it sounds like I'm really maybe in a way overselling Blair Chiropractic. And I keep saying Blair Chiropractic for a reason. It's not to oversell it. It's because there's a serious distinction. And we've even experienced that. I'm trying to remember how many years ago it was, but several years ago, we were in Connecticut because my wife's grandmother died, and we all traveled out there for the services. And Tracy, my wife, her neck was out of alignment, sleeping in a bed that's not your own for a long period of time, and also in a very stressful situation. It's pretty easy, I think, for your neck to go out of alignment. And hers was so bad that she had issues with one of her shoulders and had tremendous pain down her arm. And there was no Blair chiropractic doctor there. So she ended up going to another kind of chiropractor because she knew it had something to do with her back and neck and just wanted to get any kind of relief that she could. So she went, and this was I don't even know what kind of chiropractor it was. It's just a doctor whose title is chiropractor and doing more, I guess, of the typical lower back popping, cracking kind of stuff. And it ended up making things worse for her on that trip. And by the end of it, I had to cash in all of my frequent flyer miles. And I was a major frequent flyer. So I had like over 100,000 miles banked, but I cashed them all in to get her first class ticket accommodations back from New York to California until she could get back into your office and get properly treated and finally get the real relief and care that she wanted. So, I mean, there is a big distinction between different kinds of chiropractic care. And I've come to, I guess I wouldn't say understand it, but to believe it and trust it to the point where I allow you to care for my 2 young children.
Right. I'm so glad you brought that up because I wanted to go there with you. Your youngest is 3, almost 3 years old. And people ask me all the time, what in the world do kids need a chiropractor for? They don't have neck pain. They don't have back pain. What's wrong with them that they could possibly need a chiropractor for? And obviously what I do is so much more than just treat symptoms. It's about making sure that the nervous system is functioning properly. So why do you think it's appropriate for you to bring your kids to me? And give me some examples about how you've seen the difference in your own children with Blair upper cervical chiropractic.
Well, I'm going to, I guess, talk about my 7-year-old first. And I think we started having her come to be treated a couple of years ago. Maybe she was 5. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, she was, I think, in kindergarten because we have daughters that are the same age. So,
okay. So probably around 5 years old. And she was really having some behavioral issues. And I guess the best way to describe it is she continued to have temper tantrums beyond an age that you would expect. At a toddler age, 2, 3, 4, you kind of expect that. It's a normal part of life. But as your child gets older, 5, 6, 7, and continues to have temper tantrums and sort of loses the ability to control, they just sort of lose control. They get so upset and irrational until they completely exhaust themselves that something's wrong. And we sought several types of care for her. One of them was psychology or psychiatry. I always screw those two up. But having her get care in that kind of way, which I think was important because she has a lot of emotions and didn't necessarily understand them. And that helped her. But that only helped her so much. And once we started getting her care with you and learned that her upper cervical vertebrae were out of alignment, and then we were able to see on a weekly and monthly basis when she's in alignment, she is much, much more emotionally stable. Her behavior is, I hate to use the word, but I guess more normal or more appropriate for her age. And I have learned, and there is absolutely a connection between being out of alignment for her and not having that ability always to control her emotions, and her behavior changes. So it's become a regular part of her health care for us to have her come in at least once a month. And obviously, if she's having some behavioral issues or we can see something is not as it should be, we'll bring her in to be checked. And really, every time that's happened, her neck has been out of alignment. So
yeah. So what you notice with your middle daughter is that, for you, example, your back, as an example, is an issue, pain, and then it means your C2's out. For her, you've recognized that her behavior and her inability to maybe control her emotions is connected to her upper neck being out of alignment. And what's interesting with kids is anybody usually below age 7 or 8, we do a modified version of the x-rays because her bones haven't even fully ossified or they haven't fully developed. So when she came in at age 5, we only had to take 4 x-rays on her. And we were able to get a listing and understand how to very specifically correct her neck without any twisting or popping or cracking, because that's scary to adults, let alone a kid that doesn't understand necessarily what's all happening. And I remember she was a bit timid about the process, but once we did the correction, she was excited, she felt better, and she earned a sticker. And so now the thing is, every time she comes in to get checked, she gets a sticker because of her good behavior. And it's interesting because I know that there have been times where you've called and said, hey, you know what? She did monkey bars today at the playground. She came home and her behavior was outrageous. Can we come get her checked? Definitely. We get her in. Sure enough, something knocked her out of alignment. She got adjusted, and it's like a light switch. Literally, the blood flow and the information from her brain to her body begins to communicate in a more effective way, and her behavior changes instantaneously. It's pretty remarkable.
You know what? Really, one of the major things I've learned that we try to avoid at all cost is a bounce house. And that is really hard to avoid when you have a 6, 7, 8-year-old, or actually probably anybody through elementary school, right? They get invited to a birthday party with a bounce house. And so this one happened, I think, within the last year or a year and a half ago. I don't remember, but I am shooting a video of her at Pump It Up, which is this bounce house destination. I think it's a franchise. We have a lot of them in Southern California. And I saw her bouncing on this particular apparatus, and I saw the way her head was, I guess, the way it moved due to the force of her bouncing and landing somewhere. And I knew it right then. I'm like, oh no, this is going to be a trip to the chiropractor on Monday, because it was like a Saturday when this party was going on. And I shot this video, and you know what? I'll have to give it to you so you can put it in your blog post for the episode so people can see. But it is scary to me how many people probably are out of alignment in this world thanks to Pump It Up and other things like it that are probably in pain or having one issue or another, don't even know it. It's amazing. So anyway, if we allow her to go to a bounce house party or we encounter a bounce house, it's almost guaranteed an appointment needs to be made at the chiropractor the following week, because otherwise we'll start to see a lot of these issues.
Right. And I think just us having this dialogue and talking about why it's important for alignment in children to be established because of this very thing, bounce houses and trampoline and all different kinds of activities the kids do, their parents have absolutely no idea that these could be detrimental to their health. And maybe they don't understand that their behavior is related to their neck. So all of a sudden they're agitated and they're hyperactive and they can't focus in school. And the psychiatrist recommends that they get on some sort of medication. And you guys probably didn't do psychiatry because I don't ever remember you mentioning that she was ever getting evaluated for medication, but a psychologist would be able to do like talk therapy and play therapy to kind of help her understand her feelings and help her understand where she's at in her world. But psychiatrists recommend drugs. That's what they do. So there is a safe and effective way without drugs to get these kids' behaviors in check. And obviously, there's no guarantee that every kid that's got a behavior problem or an attitude is an upper cervical candidate. But at the very least, get them checked, because I know my daughter, who's also 7, has been invited to so many different parties. And you better bet that the first thing I'm doing when she gets home from one of those parties is checking her to make sure that she's in alignment, because her behavior is directly correlated to her upper cervical alignment being intact. It's pretty incredible to see it. And then you have a 3-year-old too. So can you tell me about why you decided to bring her in for care?
Well, actually, that was right after birth. I mean, it's only a couple of years ago. The rest of the whole family were patients of your practice already. And she had a bit of a traumatic birth. There's a term for it. I'm trying to remember what it is now. But anyway, she got stuck with the cord around her neck and was wedged in the birth canal trying to get her out. And there's a name for it. I don't remember. But there was a maneuver that the doctor had to do to get her out and save her life, obviously, that involved the doctor reaching in and pulling her arm across her chest and up when it was stuck inside. But it was either that or they were going to end up breaking her shoulder to get her out because she was distressed at the point. So they didn't have to break her shoulder, but they did do this maneuver that produced a tremendous amount of strain and stress on her shoulder. And I mean, her whole body had been in all kinds of trauma. So based on that, I mean, fortunately, she was fine, like one day in the NICU and that was it. But still, we knew that there was something about her shoulder and bone structure and probably her neck that needed to be checked out. We didn't know what everything you could do for her, but we knew that we wanted you to see her right away. And within days of birth, we brought her into you.
Yeah, I remember when you guys brought her in and it was her shoulder. And it was as if her arm was like stuck to her chest. She wouldn't move it. She wouldn't let your wife nurse her in a certain position because it was uncomfortable for her neck. So she was having trouble latching on and nursing on one side compared to the other. And for newborns, that's a huge sign. And moms of children, especially if it's your firstborn baby, you don't know what's normal, what's not normal. But I can tell you that if your baby is preferring one breast compared to the other, or they only want to turn their head to the right and never to the left, or vice versa, these are signs that there's some irritation happening in the musculature of the neck and likely the vertebra in the neck, even at birth. And because you said that, a traumatic birth is the number one reason why people go out of alignment. And then they grow up and 50 years later, they wonder why their discs are degenerating. And it isn't just because you're getting older. So back to your little girl, she came in and her arm wasn't moving properly. And I remember that we didn't even have to do any x-rays on her. We do a modified pediatric assessment. And we do a very gentle, light touch correction with just a finger. And having removed that interference from her neck, her arm began to move. She nursed great. She slept well. She didn't have any developmental issues. And now she's like the happiest toddler that I know. It's incredible.
You know, another thing that comes to mind that I want to make sure we mention, and again, I can't speak from experience on this in terms of a patient. So, I mean, I'm sure you'll interview other people in the future who can speak more to this. But as a husband, I know that getting my wife care after her trauma of childbirth was critical. And I credit the chiropractic care that your practice has given my wife with alleviating a lot of postpartum depression symptoms. And the only thing I want to say is to any husbands out there who have wives who struggled with postpartum depression, seriously, your wife's neck being out of alignment, which is completely understandable with everything that goes on in the process of childbirth, I would highly recommend, if there is a Blair Chiropractic practice anywhere within reach of where you live, that you get your wife in there and checked out, because she's suffering, and this is very, very real, the relief that they can get from this kind of care.
I totally agree with you, Tom. That is exactly why this podcast, Get Your Head On Straight, exists, so that I can help educate people and help them understand that there is something different than taking a pill, having surgery, or just being told that you have to deal with it. My practice is full of patients who have been told the very same things, and they've gotten phenomenal results with getting their neck in alignment. It's absolutely incredible.
And Tom regularly asks questions about different symptoms and about different friends or family that he has. And I'm able to get on the Blair Chiropractic website and refer him to people that I know that do this work. And every single person that he has ever come to me and asked questions about has been able to get to a Blair doctor and has had transforming results, incredible, miraculous results with the care that they're getting. So it's not that I'm this super special doctor, it's that this stuff actually works. And that is why my mission is to educate people about it and to train future chiropractors on how to do this so that there is literally a Blair chiropractor in every community in the world, because God knows we need it.
Well, I actually think you are a super special doctor, but I understand what you're saying. You're right. It is a real thing that doctors are trained in doing, which is just so incredible. When you think about it, everything runs through your neck, from your brain to the rest of your body, your blood, your nerves, all the stuff. So my mother often asks me, when I told her my lower back pain, I needed to go get adjusted in my neck. And she's like, well, what does your neck have to do with lower back pain? I think it's a typical natural question for someone who just doesn't know, right? And I say, well, no, believe it or not, it makes all the difference in the world. Everything goes through your neck. When you do this enough, you experience it and you think about it, it actually makes a lot of sense. But I think the modern Western medicine system we have in the U.S. doesn't really understand it. And I think that lack of understanding is the issue, right?
Right. I totally agree with you. And that is exactly why Is Your Head On Straight exists, so that I can educate people and help them understand that there is something different than taking a pill, than having surgery, than just being told you have to deal with this, because my practice is full of patients who have been told those very same things and who have been given those very same pills. And they've rejected that advice and gotten the help and the healing that they deserve because their necks are in alignment. And it's absolutely incredible. Tom, I'm so grateful for your time today. I'm so thankful that you were able to share your personal testimony and talk to me about the care that we've been able to give your family. And I am so blessed that you're my patient, because you are a mouthpiece and you are my advocate. And I'm just so thankful that I get to share my gift with you through chiropractic, and that, yes, you do have my cell phone number on speed dial. So anytime you need it, I got you.
Thank goodness. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be here and talk about it, sort of think about and relive these things. I experience it all the time. I don't often talk about it quite like this, but I'm glad that I can be of help.
It's so great. Well, thanks so much again, and I hope you have a great afternoon. And I'm signing off, so if you guys want to know how to get your head on straight, give me a call at Precision Chiropractic in Rancho Santa Margarita. You can check out my website, drhoefer.com, and look up any information that you want to know about Blair Chiropractic at the blairchiropractic.com website. The society and all the doctors are listed there. I hope that everybody listening has been informed and feels a little bit more motivated to go seek out a Blair chiropractor in their neighborhood and see if they can get their heads on straight. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.
Thank you for listening to Get Your Head On Straight with Dr. Elizabeth Hoefer. Visit wellconnectedchiro.com for more details from the show blog post and to learn what Blair Upper Cervical Chiropractic can do for you. To learn more about Dr. Hoefer and her practice, you can find her at Well Connected Chiropractic in Mission Viejo, California, by visiting wellconnectedchiro.com for more information.